What's poppin', everybody? This is Sid4. I was inspired by some of the exchanges I made with a viewer on yesterday's video about some of the problems in Expanded, and I thought today I'd talk to you guys about why the banned Pokemon cards that we have are banned and why 99% of them will probably never come back. I've got all of the banned cards in Expanded right now. I mean, it's kind of strange that some of them are banned in Expanded and nothing is banned in Standard. But this is all of them. I don't think I made a mistake. I got all of the cards from the official Pokemon website. And we're gonna go and look at all of them and tell you guys what I think. Because I feel like maybe some players are new, they don't understand why certain cards are banned, or they think because of the format slightly changed that some cards could come back. And I don't want to sound arrogant, but I played the Pokemon TCG for a very long time, and I've also played Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the beginning. And a lot of what's going on with Pokemon is basically going the direction of Yu-Gi-Oh! In many ways with the cards they print. So bear this in mind too. I guess we're gonna go with order. Not all of these cards got banned at the same time or the same year. So first of all, we got some Pokemon. You got this Flabebe from Unbroken Bonds, I believe, with Evolutionary Advantage. If you go second, this Pokemon can evolve during your first turn. Now, normally these abilities aren't too bad on Pokemon. It just helps them, if they're stage 1 or stage 2 especially, helps them to get to their stage 2 form much quicker, which is necessary in this day and age, as stage 2 Pokemon aren't very good usually, and they're too slow with the rare candy we have and everything else going on in the format. But unfortunately, because they made a Florges that does a lot of hand discarding stuff, and I believe the second form does that too, Floette, this Pokemon had to be sacrificed. It's kind of unfair, to be honest, and I don't know, maybe because they banned all of the other hand destruction cards, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad, but it's just going to be abused, so it had to be a sacrifice. If they didn't release those crazy, hand destruction abilities on the second and third form, then it would have been just fine. I mean, other Pokemon have this sort of evolutionary sort of ability that you can evolve instantly. But anyway, this one is pretty simple. Now on to Archaeops. This is a card that I don't have with Ancient Power. This is a much older card for Emerging Powers. This card got banned basically because of Maxi. This card, when it got released, it saw no play because fossil Pokemon were very difficult to get out. Even today, I mean, things are slowly changing, but it was a pain in the ass to get any fossil Pokemon out, especially something like this, which is like a stage 2 fossil Pokemon. And they were just weak. They were even weak in their sort of debuting eras. But this Pokemon with Ancient Power, each player can't play any Pokemon from his or her hand to evolve his or her Pokemon. So naturally, this is a very good ability. You get this Pokemon out, your opponent basically can evolve his Pokemon. But because it was so slow, because it was a fossil, and because the attack wasn't even very good, even if you did try and get this out, it would probably take a few turns, and just a regular stage 2 fossil deck. And obviously not reliable. By the time you got this out, your opponent would already have evolved their Pokemon, and it would be beating you down. But this all changed when they released Maxi right here, Maxi's Hidden Ball Trick, that basically allows you to bypass this sort of condition of a stage 2 and get this Pokemon out as soon as possible. Now, this and Archie basically do the same thing, and in the beginning when these cards came out, a lot of people weren't completely sure. You needed to build a deck in a specific way to make use of these cards, otherwise they wouldn't work in a conventional deck. But once people figured out how you run the trainer engines and the sort of deck skeletons to play them, then they're basically just broken ass cards, game hack cards, allowing you to get any fighting Pokemon out. It doesn't even have to be like a stage 2, and any water Pokemon out in the case of Archie's Ace in the Hole. And you've got a significant advantage. You don't even need to be playing like a fighting deck or something. You just run this, you got this Pokemon out. Some people would get like Gallade, a stage 2 Gallade, as a good little fighting tech counter for fighting weak Pokemon. And you can easily get Archaeops turn 1 with Maxi. And this is why they banned Archaeops. Now, I remember many moons ago, because I've made videos on banned cards for quite a while, since the beginning of my channel pretty much. I said that they should not have banned Archaeops, because at first they banned Archaeops and they didn't ban Maxi. And I did say that it's not this card that's the problem. This is a pretty fair card. Is a stage 2, is a fossil, so it's pretty slow. Yeah, the ability is great, but I mean, it's balanced out. It's not like it was a basic Pokemon. I said that the problem was this dude, Maxi, and Archie, both of them. This ability is just, this effect is just too damn good. I would probably have no problem with this card, this and Archie, if the effect was, you don't have any cards in hand to play this card, you get the fighting or water Pokemon from the discard pile, you revive it, whatever, but you don't get to draw 5 cards. The fact that this card lets you draw 5 cards, and even if it just let you draw 2 cards, just negates all of this sort of disadvantage you're supposed to put yourself by playing a bunch of items to sort of mill your hand, discard your hand, and then get that effect off. If you just got the Pokemon and you didn't draw cards, then maybe people would have been like, okay, I can still get this effect off, but I gotta set up a Pokemon like Artillery down or something if I want to get some extra draw. Like, I gotta do something extra. And maybe it would have been more balanced. Maybe it still wouldn't be enough and these cards would be busted, of course, especially when you can get a Pokemon like this Archaeops out turn 1. But it would have been a hell of a lot better than just getting a Pokemon in such a way on the first turn that you're not supposed to. And you get to draw a bunch of cards too. 5 is just too much good draw when you've got no hand. So this is what happened. They banned this card. They didn't touch Maxi and Archie, perhaps because they were new cards. But then eventually, come a few, I don't know, I think it was the next format or whatever, they banned this card, but they kept this guy banned too. And I think it was because there was like an Omastar that was going to come out that does the trainer lock thing. That Omastar from, I think, not Unbroken Bonds, but Team Up. The one that has a similar ability to Vileplume. So this is what they did. But they kept this guy banned. Maybe it's a good idea now because it seems like we do have some options to get fossil Pokemon out quicker. But when they did ban this guy, they should have probably unbanned Archaeops. Because, I mean, nobody played this card. Nobody played this card before Maxi came out. At least as far as I know. And it was strictly an expanded card anyway. And, I mean, its HP is power crept at this point. The attack is pretty freaking awful, of course. I mean, it was pretty bad even back in the day. So it's strictly for the ability. But anyways, now you know why Maxi is never going to come back. Or hopefully will never come back. And why Archie needs to get the same treatment. It's not because it just gets Blastoise and it's just that interaction. It's because it is an unfair interaction that should not happen. It's just too easy to pull off. And it limits what water Pokemon they can print. Because they always have to worry about, okay, if we get this stage 2 water Pokemon that does this, or this water Pokemon that does this, then it's going to be abused with Archie. So this is why these cards, they were a cool idea, a sort of creative idea, something that we hadn't seen before, these types of supporters. And I do like Maxi and Archie, like I'm a Gen 3 guy, of course. But it just wasn't right for them. Yeah, they're just too good. And like, imagine if we had a supporter like this for every type or a bunch of more types. These would be the decks that people would try and use. Just try to abuse, these kinds of cards and get Pokemon you're not supposed to get out immediately. So, yeah. And it isn't a fair comparison to compare this with stuff like Alolan Exeggutor and Rowlet GX that you need to play the basic Pokemon as normal. You need to have the other stage 1 and stage 2 in the deck as normal. You can't have them in the hand. So you have them, you evolve through an attack, and you just get them out. You sort of get a sort of speedy acceleration to evolve into them, but it takes your attack for the turn. You can't do this immediately on turn 1 or even turn 2, depending on the situation. So it's not a fair comparison to make. The dynamic is completely different. But anyway, I think I spent enough time on these cards. I could talk about these two cards, I mean, forever. Like, imagine in the future we get some sort of a special VMAX or some sort of special new fighting water Pokemon with 500 HP with broken effects and attacks that can attack quick. And you can get that out as soon as turn 1 or turn 2. And not a good sign. Anyway. Okay, now we're going to move on to some hand disruption fuckers, I guess. So you got this Marshadow here. We'll let loose. This, I mean, red card, all the other hand disruption cards. Hand control and hand destruction is good in any card game you play. If you know anything, if you played other card games, you know how much hand control, how important it is, hand control. Man, I can't even talk. This, even though we did have a similar card, Giratina, in the Platinum set many, many moons ago, and it did not get banned at all, it all comes down to the card pool, the format, and just everything else available, the rules and stuff. It's just you have to take everything into consideration. At this point, with all the speedy options we have, with all of the Ultra Balls, the Quick Balls, the Junipers, I mean, there was no like Juniper card in the DP era. The other supporters that let you get Mass Draw, all the other broken abilities on basic Pokemon, just the cards available pretty much. A card like this just does too much to speed up the game and sort of mess up the game even more, that if you punish your opponent and you play it so that it doesn't affect you, it's pretty game ending pretty much. Like, you basically, your opponent needs to get lucky to survive with those 4 cards plus the next one they're going to draw. So this is why that card got banned. Plus, since it was a Pokemon, it was easily searchable with Mysterious Treasure. Now it will be searchable with Quick Ball. It was even levelable and expanded. And in conjunction with other cards, becomes basically even worse. Like, you can strip your opponent's hand in 1 turn. So this is why this card is probably never going to get banned. And any other similar cards, they made sure to ban them too. Like red card, same sort of scenario. This card was a big pain in the ass for a very long time. But because we didn't have all the other hand destruction options, it's sort of it was game changing, but you know, a lot of people didn't even run it because it was just a one-off thing in a way. You couldn't combine it with a bunch of other cards. But eventually, it became so much of a problem like Marshadow that it got the same treatment. As just a regular item, it has disadvantages over Marshadow, but it has a lot of advantages over that guy too. Not requiring you to spend any bench space, being just an item, just doing this for your opponent. It's not even going to affect you, so yeah, obvious cards. I think it's just obvious in a way. Next up, we got the unknowns here, the damage one and the hand one. From what the website, the Pokemon Company website said, I guess the damage one is also banned. I wasn't aware of this, or maybe I forgot about it. I suppose you can do something to just get all the damage counters and you win that way, similar to the unknown hand. But I mean, it's basically the same thing. Like, if you're experienced enough and if you're clever enough, you know that when you see, like when they printed these cards, I knew that, okay, these cards are either not gonna do anything, either they're not gonna do anything, or they're gonna get ban worthy really quick. Like, I did say that in the Lost Thunder reviews and when these cards were revealed, because it's just basically what they do. They just hack the game in a way that is just too insane. It isn't like the Lost World concept where you had to attack a couple of times with Gengar. This is just, you can do this, I mean, in a couple of turns and without really taking much consideration to what your opponent is doing for the most part. Obviously they can mess up your hand, they can do stuff to you, but It's just too good. And I think even Lost World, like in the Legacy and limited formats, is banned. I think maybe it used to. I don't know right now, but it is what it is. This is how they are. I thought the supporter one was going to be the worst one, but I guess I was wrong in that end. And that card is actually not banned. But the unknown cards, you guys know the drill. It's just alternate win conditions that are too easy to pull off, and taking advantage of cards to make the process even easier. Like, once again, maybe if the card pool was different, these cards wouldn't be so bad. But because of all of the draw options, ability draw options, and other cards, it's just easy to pull off. Same for this guy. Anyway, now on to some cards that probably would have been okay with an errata. Okay, so this Mismagius, Mysterious Message. You knock out this Pokemon and you draw cards until you have 7. This would have been a completely fair card if only it was once per turn. Maybe it would have been busted then, but I don't think that would have been the case. It would have been pretty fair. I just think it would have been pretty fair. Just little touches there, little touches here and there that just changed the dynamic completely. Should have been once per turn. Same with Lucimin right here. Get any combination of a support and a stadium card from your discard pile, put it into your hand. You can get herself back too, and you can basically create loops. Make yourself that you don't run out of resources ever. And just another mistake that, this card is a fair card. It's just that the fact that you can grab yourself back, that they made it, that it's unfair. So just a little line of text, a little phrase of text that would have made a really big difference. I mean, these cards, same with Delinquent. Like, if you were to slap, one of these cards in a regular deck, it's completely fair. I mean, it's a supporter. You get 2 cards, especially a supporter that you won't be able to use on this turn. You get a stadium. It's a supporter. It's completely fair. I mean, this will give your opponent a prize. It's a stage 1. You draw until you have 7, but then you have other cards that let you draw until you have 6 that are easy to use. Completely fair card. It's just the fact that it didn't make it once per turn. And for Lucimin, that you can loop yourself, that you can get Lucimin back. Same with, where are you? Delinquent. Like, if I was using like a Grimmsnarl deck and had one of these teched in, it would have been completely fair. You discard a stadium, and you spend 2 cards to discard 3 from your opponent. So it's like a +1 or maybe +2, depending on who had the stadium down. But it's a supporter, it isn't like it's bad, so bad on its own. I mean, it's strong, but it's the fact that with the rest of the card pool, you can create situations where you completely strip your opponent's hand and you just make sort of create situations like that. I don't know the best way to describe it. I mean, FTK is not really the word here, but I mean, if you can do this on the first or second turn, then yeah. But yeah, on its own, it wouldn't be bad. It's just in conjunction with other cards that it becomes problematic. Hand control. And it didn't help that they released cards like this guy that we're going to look at later. But yeah, Delinquent. Okay. Now, I've got Trevenant here, and obviously this card isn't banned, Archie isn't banned. I just included them for reference. We're going to look at Wally next. So, this card is one of the few cards that I think they can come back. They should come back, actually. And in my opinion, I said this when this card first got banned. It should have never gone banned in the first place. This is essentially a fair version of Archie and Maxie, is the best way I can describe it. It's a fair version to those guys. You search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon EX. It even had that limitation. And you evolve into it. So the plus is you can do this on a Pokemon you just played down. But if you're getting a stage 2, you can't jump from the basic to the stage 2. Like if you're trying to get Empoleon out, You can't just play the Piplup and get Empoleon. You gotta play Prinplup first. So extremely perfectly fair. That's one. You need to have the Pokemon, the rest of the Pokemon in the deck and what have you. It isn't like Maxie and Archie. And it works with Pokemon that evolve. I mean, you can't just get, I don't know, like a freaking special Pokemon. Like back in the day, it was the EXs. I guess now you could get GXs or VMAXs, but that doesn't really matter. This is a completely fair card. It took your supporter for the turn. You don't get any draw. You don't get anything else. You need to have the other cards available. It's a fair price to pay. What got this card panned, though, unfortunately, it was the sacrifice for Trevenant. So this guy, at his inception, when it was released, it was as good as a perfect card as you could get. 110 HP for a stage 1 was extremely respectable. Its Tree Slam attack is actually quite good, was actually quite good back then. 60 for 3, DC compatible, and you do 20 to 2 Pokemon. So that's 100 damage total. This was respectable for Gen 6 and sort of almost Gen 5 still in a way. And especially considering you get like stage 1s and stage 2s these days that do less damage with the same energies. And of course, with all this package, you got the Final Resistance too. You get the Forest Curse ability, which will prevent your opponent from playing any item cards. So busted. You had this great ability already, and the rest of the package was amazing too. HP, attack, DC compatible. Then we got the Dimension Valley. This card could attack for 2 energies, so borderline perfect card. But even so, I still don't feel like, even with this guy, that you can get him on the first turn with Wally. Wally was ban-worthy. I mean, this guy was good, but by the time Wally came out, we got a bunch of different stuff. By the time they banned Wally, pretty much, we had even more great cards. And this guy, even though he was good, he wasn't good enough. I mean, 110 HP was still kind of low. Tree Slam still needed a bunch of energies to attack. You needed Dimension Valley, and it was still going to be 2 energies. And of course, with the Darkness Weakness, you could kill this guy using certain Pokemon. His retreat was really big. You know, he was very strong, but he wasn't like broken enough that it was impossible to deal with. You could deal with this guy. I mean, you've got your counter stadiums to remove Dimension Valley. Like, by the time they would be ready to attack, you could use supporters and just draw some other cards. You, let's see, if you had like, we didn't have Mew, but Mime down, you could completely negate his spread damage. So he's going to be doing ass damage too. So he was good, but he wasn't perfect. What made this card busted though, and completely elevated it, was this card. In my opinion, they should have just never printed Trevenant Break. That's the problem. They knew that this card was already very good, okay, with Forest Curse and everything else. They should have not made this guy. It was because they made this guy that this deck became too much, and then they ended up having to sacrifice Wally. And that's just 100% my opinion. I know a lot of people would disagree, but I really feel like just the regular Trevenant on its own, you could deal with it. You weren't always going to deal with it, but, you know, like I've said, if your opponent was going to go through the trouble to get this dude out, it means that you didn't use a supporter for their turn. They're not really doing too much. They're slowing themselves down for a bit. It gave you a chance. It was a pretty big risk. But when they printed this guy gave a significant HP boost to Trevenant that would make it very hard to take down. 160 for somebody that was going to give 1 prize. His attack was much cheaper, just 2 energy, and you could do this with 1 if you had Dimension Valley. So it was much faster, completely negated the slowness of this guy. And you couldn't play around this with bench protection, mime, and what have you. It was just going to place 3 damage counters on everybody. Insane. So it's the fact that they printed this card that made Trevenant too damn good for the time. And I think that was their mistake. They should have never printed Trevenant Break. And I guess if they were going to ban something, maybe ban this guy. Now, maybe the card pool today, once again, has expanded to the point that maybe this guy was going to get banned anyway. But, I mean, the way I see it, you look at a card on its own, he's pretty damn fair. These guys just have a lot more possibilities to be broken. So I just never understood the logic behind this. But I guess that's why everyone is different. We're all different. We have different opinions. But to me, Wally, I was never going to ban it, even like from the earliest days this guy got banned. And I definitely banned this guy. If this guy got banned, this guy should have got banned too. Because it's the same effect for a different attribute. That's just plain and simple. It's the same damn effect. Anyway, they came in the same set. Alright, moving on. Now we get some fucking control shit cards. You got this Chip Axe here. Pretty obvious, this card. Stack your opponent's deck and make sure they always get the useless card. Fucking install control cards. Just completely having your opponent at your mercy. Shit like this, you know, if I put this in a regular deck, there's nothing special. But it's in conjunction with all the other bullshit cards that they print. They just keep printing them. I don't know why they do it. It's just they're printing them to get banned. And this is what you get. Basically, you get this sort of interactions that are too good. Just too many options, you know, for this sort of mechanics. So that's why this card got banned. It's probably never going to come back. Puzzle of Time. Man. This is probably the most overpowered freaking recovery card we're ever going to get. You had to play two of them together, but if you played two, you get any two cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So, it's like a freaking... You spend two cards to get two cards. So it's like you spend a VS Seeker to get a support. It's like a double computer search from your discard pile. And you don't even have to discard cards, you just play these guys together. Overpowered as fuck card. Insane, especially when it was used with Zoroark GX. Now we've got Cinccino. You better believe if this card was around, Cinccino was going to be seen in play. You'd get even more sort of a control. Oh my god, fucking decks and variants with this card around. He's never going to come back. I hope it never comes back. Just too freaking busted. I mean, you guys see how good Custom Catcher was. That it's just a freaking... Lysander, that's just an item, and you just need to play two of them. So, this being a double computer search from the discard pile just takes the cake. Nothing else to say about that. Or to look at that red card, reset stamp. Once again, just mass hand destruction, too easy to pull off as an item. In my opinion, this card, it should have gone in standard too, to be honest. I don't know why they kept this and Lieutenant Surge. I guess they're just going to let them rotate out the regular way, and then they get banned and expanded. It's not good. It's not good in my opinion, but this obviously can function similarly to N, but N, you use up your supporter for the turn. It could hinder you as well, depending on the situation. N, this is just an item. I believe it's just too good. And it's just too easy to discard when you don't need it, or when you think you don't need to play it, or your opponent has less cards, you don't want to play it early. It's just, it really rewards extremely consistent decks and punishes the decks that really can't afford to play cards like these. Their consistency would really be hurt. So I never was a fan of this card, and I think it should have been banned in standard. It is banned in expanded, once again, because hand destruction shenanigans. I mean, it's pretty simple. In conjunction with various hand destruction combos, I can't say the other word that I used to say because of the YouTube algorithm, but because of hand discarding interactions, the same thing. Too damn good, just an item. Forest of Giant Plants. This is another perfect example of a card that is weaker than its predecessor it's based on. broken time space from the DP days, the Platinum days, basically. But it is banned because of the card pool that we have, the rule changes that we have, the nature of the format. This just allows you to evolve grass Pokemon the turn you play them. You need to have the stage 1 if you're going to use a stage 2. But it's basically broken time space for grass Pokemon. That's the effect. Main reason it got banned, obviously, it's probably for Vileplume. But even if you exclude Vileplume, if this was around, you know, grass stage decks would have been hell of a different. I mean, even something like Sabotage GX, when Lost Thunder came out, that would have been a hell of a deck, much more, if this was around. Okay? If you could get that guy like super quick. So, this is the power of this card. And, you know, like I've said, they didn't errata the rare candy for... It was a coincidence when they gave an errata a rare candy. I mean, I didn't like it, but it's no denying that rare candy was busted the way it was before. But it's the same idea. You know, you can't get this sort of super quick stage 1, stage 2 evolution these days when we have all the Ultra Balls and Junipers and Quick Balls and Shamans and all that shit. It's too fast. It's just too fast, too degenerate. Anyway, so this is why this card is banned. It's probably never gonna come back. We already looked at this guy. I want to touch on Delinquent again a little bit. I do want to stress that, you know, this card is it ain't so bad like on its own. It's just you use your supporter for the turn. Your opponent gets to pick the cards that discard. And obviously, if they've got a really low hand, then you fuck them up really hard. But it's really difficult. But it's never going to come back because, like I've said, in conjunction with other hand discarding cards, it becomes too good. Even of its own, people would argue it's too good. But anyway, it's not like I miss it or anything or I want it to come back. But I just want to stress that it's the entire card pool. Like, it's not just cards on their own. Like, remember, it's this would have been nothing if Maxi didn't come out. Anyway, too slow. Okay, and now we get to Getsis. My God. So, I don't know if people really understand exactly how overpowered this card can be. Like, just, even if we don't take this card being used in item lock decks. Let's say you've got 2 items in your hand, and your opponent plays this. It's almost like a mini Delinquent, plus you get to draw 2 cards, and you don't need the condition with the stadium and what have you. It's basically a +3, yeah, it's not +4, +3 I guess, because this guy gets sacrificed, you use a supporter for the turn. Okay. Now imagine you have 3 items in hand when your opponent plays this, which is not uncommon. You've got 3 items in hand, you're holding on to them, whatever. Your opponent plays this. You lose 3 cards from your hand, and your opponent gets to draw 3 too. Straight draw, by the way. Insane. Now imagine you're playing up against an item lock deck. You've got a bunch of items stuck, you know, you're struggling, your opponent maybe has Vileplume out or Gengar or whatever. Your opponent plays this, even if they don't play it on the first turn, which it doesn't matter. They play this like turn 3 or whatever, turn 4, whatever. You've got like 4 or 5 item cards in your hand. You lose all of your hand, your opponent gets to draw 5 cards. Absolutely insane. This card will probably never ever come back. I mean, it's a Team Plasma too, so I guess Team Plasma is irrelevant right now, but it had that advantage too back in the day. Like, you could recycle it. Even without VS Seeker and stuff in the Team Plasma deck, you could do stuff with it. It's not really a big reason, but I just thought I'd mention it. But this card is just too much plus. Too much plus, just too strong of an effect. Hindering your opponent severely and letting you draw cards too. It's just got all of the good stuff together. So it's never going to come back. Same with Hex Maniac. I really like this full art. This is like a Gen 3 card, of course. But this card, simply put, is just too overpowered of an effect. to just having a supporter. I mean, you've got all of the decks that rely completely on basic Pokemon or just rely in a certain strategy that when you've got some hard counters that could counter them, it's too easy for them to just tech this card in and just make those techs irrelevant. Like, it's the best way to put it, like in Night March. You try and use something like Exurgatree GX or something, they can just play this, they can easily get over their hard counter. So, quite simply put, it's just too strong of an effect on a supporter card that you can recycle. And once again, it rewards the really consistent ass decks. Like if you're running a deck that's not very consistent, you're not going to be encouraged to tech this card in because it's going to mess up your consistency. But for the super consistent, super overpowered decks, this card is just a free blessing. You just run this and you have an answer to the stuff that's going to counter you. So, once again, probably never going to come back. It's just too good of an effect on a supporter. This is an effect that you shouldn't get in just a supporter card. Negate basically all abilities. Just grant an ability negation in any deck being a supporter. It's just too damn free, too damn strong, and just too powerful. Just simple as that. The same as Getsis. On their own, these cards are too powerful. That's basically it. We got Jesse and James too. Fucking hand destruction. What's the word? But anyway, each player discards 2 cards from their hand. You discard first. Obviously, with the other wheezings and coughings they made to work with this card, you can bypass the effect or whatever. Or just make your opponent discard more cards. Too damn good. Too easy to pull off. In troll sort of control decks dedicated to this shit, you don't care about it. It doesn't give you any drawback. Once again, in conjunction with the card pool, too good of an effect. That's it. And then Lieutenant Surge, they should have never printed this card because it rewards... It's a free effect for the decks that aren't going to win the conventional way. Like if those troll shit decks, control decks, however you want to refer to them, okay? This effect is free for them. I played 2 supporters for free because I'm not trying to get prizes anyway. I'm going to win without getting any prizes. So this effect hardly matters to me. It doesn't matter. I just get the free plus. And I still take advantage of cards together that they should not be together. They should not be printed in the same pool. And it's just too much advantage. I mean, it's a hack way to get cheap victories. It's plain and simple. I freaking guarantee you, like if these cards were around, what the World Championship in the expanded format was going to be. It's just going to be all of these control decks in the top tables or whatever. And mirror matches would be crazy. And even without these, you better believe that Oranguru and all that shit, maybe I should have included that card, they're going to be the decks you're going to be seeing in all probability. I don't know, unless Eternity is just so fast that they can't do it. But if that's not the case, expect to see these decks. Just some of them top either way. But this is what this guy does. Effects that should not exist. You get to play 2 supporters, and the effect is just too easy to go over through. That's it. And it just rewards shit tactics and these troll tactics. It doesn't really give me much incentive. Like if you were playing a conventional deck, let's say I'm playing a Grimmsnarl deck, and I'm including this, I'm sacrificing consistency for my deck, okay, to get sort of a little bit of an advantage if I'm losing, okay? So, fair trade-off, whatever. But in a deck that's just not conventional, you get to reap all the benefits for free. So this is why they should have never made it. Or if this is going to exist, shit like Uranguru, shit like all of the other cards that exist, should not exist. Simple as that. Anyway, moving on. Already talked about Lucimin. I mean, once again, completely fair card, fair supporter. It's just the fact that you can loop yourself, and the troll decks that are designed to slow the game down, make the game last forever, they can reap the benefits without any drawbacks with this card, and just give themselves unlimited resources. Same idea. And then this guy, the granddaddy of them all. Okay. This guy is basically like the Pokemon card, the Pokemon Fiber Jar, if you guys know Fiber Jar from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's as close to a game reset that you're gonna get. I mean, on paper, it doesn't look so bad, and I'm never gonna forget that Puka thought this card was gonna be bad when he first reviewed it. You get all of your resources back, but you give all of your opponent's resources back, plus you use it as a supporter for the turn. But the reality is that shuffling all your resources back in the deck it just gives you so many different advantages. Like, for one, when Shaman got released, that let you draw your whole deck with Ultra Balls and what have you, it basically encouraged people to not really care too much about, okay, I might be discarding all of my resources that I'm going to need later, but as long as we have Lysander and VS Seeker that came in the same set, I know that I'm good. Like, I can get any of my shit back that I want. So I'm just going to go all out. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it can make games drag, of course, resetting all cards back in the deck from the discard pile. It messes up a lot of different strategies that sort of set up the discard pile, and you could say that's broken too, but I mean, when we didn't have Battle Compressor and you had to do this in a more fair way, like with Ultra Balls and what have you, it does suck when you get to play this card. And also, I mean, this isn't going to be as easy to pull like the Fiber Jar deck, but if you got ways to remove your opponent's cards from the discard pile and put them in the lost zone, and you do this, it's like you're giving your opponent less cards. You're getting all of your cards back, and your opponent doesn't get everything. And you can build a deck to deck out your opponent too. It's just too much stuff that this card does that is just not healthy. Okay? And the biggest thing is that everybody gets all of their resources back. Like, reuse your A-Spec. You're going to reuse A-Specs millions of times. That's another thing that makes this card too dangerous. It's just, I mean, I think I get my point across. It's never going to come back. It just makes things too complicated. Best way to say it. We already talked about Maxi and Archie, and I mean, okay, I got disconnected over there. I guess I've been talking for too long, but we're almost finishing with this. Like I was about to say before I got logged out, I do I get it. A lot of people like Maxi and Archie. It made Blastoise sort of come back in a way. But I mean, you know what? If you want to play Blastoise, you can just build it the regular way. Like we used to build it. Like if I'm building Embor, like if you build any other Stage 2 deck, just get it out the old-fashioned way. Because, like I said, as long as this card is out, it just limits the water Pokemon they're going to be coming out. Just plain and simple. And eventually, it's only a matter of time. Eventually, they will have to ban this. Because they're going to print some card either by an accident or they're going to want to print it. And then they're going to say, okay, we need to finally just ban Archie so we can print some different water Pokemon cards. It's going to limit the little creativity they have left. It limits that. So this is why this card needs to get banned if this guy got banned. Okay? It's just plain and simple. Now, like I've said, maybe in a different card pool. Like if we didn't have all of the items and trainers that we have, like if this card maybe was in standard with a more limited move pool, maybe it wouldn't be too bad. Okay? But that's just not the reality. So, they gotta do what they're gonna do. I already talked about Wally. I guess a card that I forgot to talk about here. It's not banned, but I should have included Battle Compressor and Propagation Execute. Propagation Execute should have been banned ages ago too, or get an errata or something, because that card, that is basically like the Sinister Serpent of Pokemon. You get to make all of the discarding outlets costless. You can do it as many times as you want. That needed an errata. And then Battle Compressor, that's basically almost like a painful choice, Foolish Burial of Pokemon once again. We have so many cards right now like Ho-Ho EX and the Darkrai GX and other Pokemon that want to be sent to the discard pile, and like the Night March, we're going to get like a new Night March deck. You get so much shit that card is too damn good. It should be the effect, send one card, or just maybe send 2 cards, I guess, not 3. And then the last card, Island Challenge Amulet, Pokemon GX or Pokemon EX, gets minus 100 HP, and then when it's knocked out, opponent takes 1 less prize card. So, in just one phrase, this gives you prize manipulation while the turn doesn't end. Like, this is before you attack, okay? It isn't like Life Do, that it's an A spec. This is basically almost like a shittier life Do, but you can use plenty of them. That's it, and you can use a different A spec. Okay? It just creates situations where you can deny your opponent from getting prize cards, or not deny your opponent from getting prize cards, but just activate shit like how it was used with Mismagius and what have you, and then you use Recent Stamp, and I mean, I'm tired. I don't want to be thinking about all this shit. This card is also pretty complicated. I'm not going to pretend like I know everything about it, but it's just some bullshit. You can look at, check online about all of the different stuff you can do that's unfair with this, that sort of breaks the game up, game hacks the rules of the game. It's really fucked up. I mean, once again, I remember looking at it when it was going to be released, thinking to myself, this is just another card that's just going to eventually get banned. And it didn't even take that long. Like this Reset Stamp, this guy, it didn't really even take that long for them to get banned and expanded. They sort of did them a favor for keeping them in standard, if you ask me. But eventually they're going to go from there too. I guess once they rotate from standard, they're gone forever as they're banned and expanded. So this is basically, I guess, some of the thoughts for the banned cards. My thoughts about them. Maybe some people were going to think of stuff that I missed, but this is basically, I guess, a good gist of why most of these cards will never come back, and even some cards like Wally. I mean, I think it's okay, but maybe some people are going to disagree. Now that the rule changes have changed, when it comes to playing first, this card loses a lot of its value too, kind of like Lily. But these cards are still good. These cards are still good. Like, even with the new rule changes, it doesn't really make that much of a difference to them, to be honest. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I was supposed to have a match today. I know that it's been a bunch of days since I posted a match, but I was supposed to put a match today. I got inspired yesterday after I posted that video, after a couple of exchanges with a viewer in the comments, and I thought I'd just talk about the banned cards and why they're not going to come back, and why a lot of them need to get banned too. Like, this should get banned. At this point, if they're going to give us Crobat V, just ban Shaman, because all of the shit you can do with Scoop Up Net, it's just too much. They should have either never released Scoop Up Net if they knew this was going to happen, or just ban freaking Shaman, because drawing your whole deck in one turn, it was bad enough even before Scoop Up Net. Like, you could draw your whole freaking deck with Shaman even before. But now, it's just borderline ridiculous. Even more ridiculous than it was before. But anyways, I think it's about time I shut the fuck up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, share this video with your friends. And I'll see you guys next time with some matches, I promise. Sabro 94. We'll say...